This lesson explains the concept and meaning of authority uses in social casework. Different types of authority are also briefed. The influence of use of authority in casework process is explained in the presentation. Illustration of extent of authority to be used as per the type of problem and needs of the client is also making this lesson a guideline for how to use authority. Some of the learning objectives are: understand the meaning, concept of authority, learn the types of authority, understand the outcome of effective use of authority. Let's first try to understand the meaning and concept of authority. Power and authority are related. Power is the right to command or act, and authority is the powers assigned to a position and exercised by the individual on the position and enforces obedience and make decision. Social workers use authority as a tool in helping process of casework. Authority as tool is used in providing protective service, providing settings where the ego functions of the individual is poor. Authority is not domination or willful imposition as far as casework process is concerned. It is involved with carrying the rights and powers that are inherent in special knowledge and special functions. Client seeks a person who has authority of knowledge and skills to help him or her. Client approaches the person who is in a better position to help him or her as the person knows more. The client assumes that the social workers carries certain authority which provide safety, security, and strengthen the capacity. The purpose and program of agency where social worker is associated also affect the scope of operation of authority. Caseworker represent the agency and is authorized to do certain functions. Authority is the power delegated to the practitioners by society, that is the client and agency, because of his or her status and expertise in the field. The worker, that is the practitioner, occupying a certain position in the agency is perceived as having power to influence the client to move towards the desired goal of change and growth, as mentioned by Upadhyay in the year 2014. Authority is derived by the social worker from his or her position in the agency, his knowledge and professional experience. The client approach the social worker for help, considering him or her as a competent person. Social worker starts exercising authority to intervene in the problem of client which client alone cannot deal with. The client expects the social worker to help him direct his or her activities and guide him or her in solution to his or her problems. Client thus experience security in his or her relationship with the worker. The sense of security in the client will vary with the level of expertise of the worker and the personal state, that is, level of anxiety, self-confidence, resourcefulness, etc. of the client. Authority is always present in the worker-client relationship, and the worker cannot be divested of the authority and power, as he is the provider, supplier of the services the client needs. The caseworker-client relationship is not on equal terms. By the use of power originating from authority, caseworker gives appointment, involve family members, friends, and community members in the treatment process and maintain the records. Caseworker prepare schedule of casework process, questions his or her late arrival, follow up the assignments given, etc. The way caseworker establish and work out the process require the use of authority. how much and how often to exercise the authority varies from situation to situation and person to person. Caseworker and client act within reality situation of which authority is a part of the framework. A person is in continuous interaction with various factors around, and the personality of the person is a product of that interaction and experiences, which is depicted below. When social worker intervenes in the problem of client, he or she have to explore into all these interaction and personality structure of the client. In this process, social worker uses authority when and where required. Let's now look at the types of authority. Weber, Harle-Lambos and Hurd in the year 1980 has described three types of authority as stated under: first is traditional, second is charismatic, and third is legal authority. The first one, traditional. Traditional authority is based on the culture and traditional belief and norms prevailing in the society. This perpetuates and inherits from the predecessors like priest, father in the family. The second one, charismatic. This is derived from the submission, that is devotion, felt by the people to a certain person because of special or exceptional qualities which is admired by large number of people. Gandhiji is in the category of persons exhibiting charisma and thereby exerted charismatic authority on the masses. Now the third one, that is legal authority. It originates from the legal provisions, for example, acts, rules, legal procedures. These are rational and embodies the society's wider approval. In casework, formal, that is legal authority operates only in cases of probation, aftercare, home services, adoption, court, etc. In such settings, the caseworker derives authority mainly from the agency. Informal, that is traditional and charismatic authority grows out of respect for the caseworker in the relationship. Now going further, let's look at authority versus principle of self-determination. The principle of client self-determination states that an individual has the right of making decisions about matters pertaining to his or her life, and that other people's decision about directing his or her life should not imposed on him or her, which was stated by Grace Matthew in the year 1992. It indicates that social workers should not make decisions or choices or plans for the client. Client can be enabled by giving guidance, but self-determination, like freedom, has limitation. The decision taken by the client should be within the social constraints and should not harm others or detrimental to anybody or to himself or herself. Their capacity of decision making varies from person to person. Client has to take the responsibility of carrying out the decision and to handle the consequences. When the principle of client self-determination viewed from this perspective, we can understand that the authority of social worker is not in controversy with the principle of client self-determination. Exercising authority is essential in certain conditions where client is not in a position to take own decision or to execute the decision taken. One of the functions, authority in relationship of the client and social worker, is to set in motion the client in the problem solving process. Therefore, authority does not restrict the principle of client self-determination. Now let's look at the importance of use of authority in special cases. In working with people with primary behavior disorders, personality disorder, certain phases of psychosis, and all those who act out their impulses, one must help to develop internal and external restraints. Until the client can do that, the social worker has to exercise restraint or authority. Restraints are internalized because of loving and nurturing relationship, as it was stated by Gordon Hamilton in the year 2013. Authority can be used to build up ego by means of approval, improving of self-esteem, success, acceptance by a group, and development of skills which modify and restructure the personality. Delinquent children have distorted ideas of reality. They assume that everyone blames and hurts them. A skilled social worker with the wise use of authority and creativity offers them a different reality while building relationship with them and may begin to change their attitude. The people who have internalized their responses to authority are guided by their own inner sanctions. But some are not, and they try to settle their problems through a legal authority in the court. The reason behind this is the attitude derives from unresolved parental experiences and from other social and cultural conditioning. With the use of authority, both caseworker and client act in a reality situation. Authority cannot be used clinically unless the social worker is psychologically well equipped and able to understand the growth and development of personality. Now let's look at use of authority in case worker-client relationship. Use of authority helps the client in different ways. By nature, under certain control of person in authority, people function well, which is universally practiced in all organizational setup and even in our family setup also. This is true in casework process also. Clients lack in self-direction and motivation to work out on their problems. Use of authority is helpful for following purposes as mentioned by Upadhyay in the year 2014. To persuade the client to the casework services, to instill confidence and build up self-esteem and minimize guilt and anxiety in the clients. This is done by lawfully taking stand with the client, explaining the legal position and lending due support to them. In crisis situations like suicide, violence, etc., to aid the victims. Setting limits in order to relieve the clients from internal or external pressures because of which he or she is unable to decide the nature of action he should take in the particular situation. To inculcate appropriate values in the client so that he could substitute his or her socially undesirable values by the desirable ones for better life. This is achieved easily when the caseworker is in position to exert more influence by use of authority on the client. When the mind is filled with disturbing emotions, the individual tends to withdraw into himself or herself and brood over the matter, causing stress. Brooding causes the stresses to expand and occupy the full space of the mental screen, stopping all rational thinking. When social worker intervenes, he or she will be able to stop the client's mental process of withdrawing and brooding by helping the person to verbalize, to perceive the situation realistically, and creating avenues for new thinking. In this process, social worker uses authority to influence the client, which was essential to deal with the situation. Effective use of authority can help the client in problem-solving process in the following aspects. First, serve as a starting point in getting the client engaged in the helping process. Second, help in dealing with resistance to change. Third, give to the client the satisfaction of identifying with a strong, adequate person. Fourth, create trust and rapport quickly. Fifth, help in protection of clients like immature persons, children, the aged, etc. Sixth, help in handling the crisis situation in the individual's life. Seventh, help in minimizing guilt and anxiety, stress. And eighth, give a sense of security to the client because of which he may respond better to casework treatment. Social worker should have expertise to use authority effectively. Efficient use of authority can be learned with experience and is also influenced by the attitude, value system, and commitment to the professional ethics by the social worker. Unwise use of authority adversely affects the casework process as follows. Number 1, resistance to change. Number 2, poor rapport. Number 3, mistrust. Number 4, weak caseworker-client relationship. Number 5, less involvement. Number 6, less motivation. These adverse effects hinder the casework process. In Indian situation, authority is appreciated and individuals are ready to submit themselves for getting the help. This approach is a feature of the Indian culture. Now let's look at the characteristics of authority. Use of authority in casework process enables the client to attain the goal set up for himself or herself. Authority is not used as coercion or threat, but used to serve the client in best possible way to enhance the capacity of the client to sort out the issues faced by the client. The characteristics of authority with reference to the casework process are as follows. First, authority is occasionally used in the interest of the client. Second, authority arising from the prestige of the caseworker and expert training. Third, authority is not used as coercion or threat. Fourth, use of authority is highly influenced by the need of the client. Fifth, authority functions under the framework of agency and professional ethics. And sixth, functions of authority is focused only on positive outcome. Influence of agency in using authority in social worker-client relationship. Social work is an agency-based profession. The interaction between the client and the social worker often takes place in an office or building identified as the agency or elsewhere in the community. The influence of the agency is strong even when the interaction takes place even outside the agency. As an employee, the social worker is a part of the agency system. The form and content of the service offered must be within the agency's objectives and guidelines. The structure and functions of agency influence the nature of the worker and client interaction. The agency provides resources for both the worker and the client. The professional and the bureaucratic expectations have to be fulfilled by the social worker. Bureaucratic expectations call for loyalty to the organization, acceptance of authority from achievement of goals, and on efficiency. Professional expectations call for commitment to professional values and to the service of clients, ability to have a broad span of decision-making power, collegial relationship, and an emphasis on meeting client need and allowing for client self-determination and individualization. The worker needs to understand the organization and define its boundaries. Similarly, one has to understand the environmental factors that influence the structure and functioning of the agency. The third task is to understand the structure and functioning of the agency system. Social worker not only needs to understand the agency in which they are employed and other agencies which can be used to provide resources to clients. Therefore, agency influence the use of authority while working with client, as social worker has to operate his or her functions within the framework of agency setting. Factors influence the operation of authority in social worker-client relationship. Operation of authority is influenced by different associated factors. It is not solely depend upon the social worker, but within the influence of below mentioned factors, a creative and learned social worker can effectively use authority for the benefit of the client. With experience and continuous learning, social workers' capacity to use authority in establishing meaningful relationship can be enhanced. Clients respect the authority which reflects knowledge and expertise and fruitful outcome. Because they believe social worker as a capable person to make them free from the problem they encounter with, the interpersonal skill like active awareness, building trust, communicating, listening, and expression of feeling, etc., form a profound impact on the client to accept the authority exercised by the social worker. Use of authority operates in client-social worker relationship under the influence of above mentioned factors. Appropriate use of authority at right time strengthens the professional relationship. Client-social worker relationship is fundamental in problem-solving process as it results in interaction. Interaction brings out the different dimensions of the problem and reveals the extent of required changes to bring in. It also makes the client to participate better in the process of problem solving by shouldering responsibility to take appropriate decision. Now let's look at the means to enhance effective use of authority. Individual problems or difficulties may have resulted from the effects of social exclusion, lack of skills or knowledge, self-defeating or self-damaging behavior. To deal with the complex individual problems, social workers should sharpen their practice. To make their intervention effective enough, there is a vital need to take care of following aspects seriously by social work professional. Social work education also expands its horizon to produce change makers with necessary skills and knowledge have a better world to live in. International peace-related and contemporary social problems need the attention of professional social workers. Social work professionals should prove their credibility in dealing with the problems of society. This credibility makes the social worker to exercise the authority without any resistance for the noble cause of helping the individuals. Therefore, social work professionals should keep in mind following points. First, improve professional accountability to the client, agency and profession. Second, social workers should develop and enhance their skills, building up their knowledge and competence. Third, improve critical decision-making skills. Fourth, effective professional consultation which provides support and promotes challenges and reflective practice. Fifth, enabling professional leadership. Sixth, support critical decision making based on sound evidence. Seventh, emphasis on continuous improvement. Eighth, learn from both good practice and mistakes. Ninth, develop organizational, that is agency, culture in tune with the professional ethics. 10th, practice professional ethics. 11th, promotion of social work research. And lastly, publication of best practices. Social casework is a systematic approach and scientific method. Therefore, creation of new knowledge is essential to enrich the profession to suit the modern scenario. World around people face numerous problems which need professional interventions. Social work research should promote to measure the effectiveness of existing practices and also to evolve new intervention which may be able to address contemporary social problems and individual issues. Since social work method study about all dimensions of problem and come with solutions, social work profession is in high demand in all sectors of the society. Social casework is a scientific art to help an individual to live a socially productive and individually satisfying life limited to his or her capacities and social realities. Presently, interventions which can be measured and standardized are in use. Social work professionals and institutes of social work education should take initiative in entering into new ventures to serve the needs of the society. Since each person is unique, social workers require to have wide knowledge and skills to deal with each case. For better results, blending of different casework models of practice can be used. Use of authority in social casework is widely used in public agency where authority is legally sanctioned by the state. But social work professionals use the legal authority keeping in mind the values, principles and ethics of the profession to help the client. Coming to the summary of this lesson, in this lesson, meaning and concept of authority is explained. The controversy between self-determination and authority is also briefed in the presentation for better understanding. Lesson highlights the use of authority in client and social worker relationship. This presentation throws light into characteristics of authority, types of authority, and how it affects the practice if used unwisely.